we're going to have a look at how we create materials inside the Unreal Game Engine. Now, the Unreal Game Engine is used to create physically based materials. So they've got a set of parameters that are used to create all sorts of different materials that represent things that are in the real world. So for instance, metal, glass, wood, concrete, and so forth. So we're going to have a look at that in this session. There's plenty of information on the Unreal website, so I'm just going to show you this website. It's called, this is the Unreal Game Engine documentation website, and if you do a search, physically based materials, Unreal, you'll be able to access this website, and the web address is here. I'll just bring it up on the screen. And that'll be on the link on the tutorial post on Teams. Okay, so you can create your own little project, and you can call it materials. And we're just going to use a basic blank project, and I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it basic materials. Open that folder up, and you can create a material by right clicking and then select material, and we're going to just call this basic underscore mat, and mat is just short for material, and I'm going to use that in a second. And I'm going to need an object to apply it to, so I'm just going to drag in a sphere. I'm going to use this as the object we're going to look at, and I can select the start player and just move it back, so when I click on the play button you can see, and we can move around it. We can have a look what it looks like. At the moment it's got no material on it at the moment. So to access the material that you just created, we're just going to open it up, and I'm just going to drag the material tab up here. And you'll notice it's got this large node and a representation of the material. So if we click on the home button, and we're going to focus on these 4 basic parameters that describe the material. So we've got base colour, which determines the colour of the material. Metallic is how much luster the object has got, how it reflects light to make it look like metal. Specular is specular highlight. You can see there's a sort of a shininess on the surface. That's a specular highlight, and that determines how much of that there is. And then roughness is how much is the light is scattered off the surface. The less roughness a material has, the more reflective it is. So with 0 roughness, it suddenly becomes highly reflective. Okay, so looking more like a mirror. But we'll have a look at that as we go through. So let's look at base colour first of all. If you can drag from the base colour node, and then I'm just going to type in vector 3. So we'll select constant vector 3, and all constant vector 3 means is it's got 3 values. Now colour inside a computer is measured in red, green and blue channels. So as you can see on the left hand side, we've got the details panel, and if you open up constants, you can type in the values, ranges from 0 to 1, or we can change them inside the colour palette. So let's just go for that. It's a nice little dark blue colour. Press OK. And as you can see, variations on R, G and B can be inputted in there, and you can change them in there if you wish. And you can see it's updated the shader. Now the shader is a computer program that is inside the parameters, and this determines what the material looks like, and then when we apply the material to the model will then represent that. So let's just do that. Let's just save that. Go back to the model itself, we select it, and as you can see in the details panel on the right hand side, the material has got a basic shape material that it applies to it when we drop in this object. So when we drag our material, you can apply it to the object or you can apply it inside the material. So I'm going to select it, and as you can see now, the material is on the object, and we can click on play and we can have a look what that looks like. And it's got a little bit of specular on it at the moment, not very intense at the moment, and it's been shaded by the light which is coming from the sun over there in the default scene. Okay. It's not very reflective at the moment, so we'll just escape from there. Go back to the material, and then we can start to try out. So let's look at metallic. So we'll drag from metallic. We're going to look at constant, and we're going to have a scalar. Sorry, my mistake there. Scalar value. There we go. I'm going to select scalar parameter, and I'm going to give that parameter a name. I'm going to call it metal amount. We'll talk a little bit about why we use parameters later on. So metal amount. Okay. Now at the moment the parameter has got 0. So if we put 1 in there, have you noticed that the luster has changed the appearance now? It looks more like a blue metallic wall. And that's by just changing the parameter to 1. So remember, it goes from 0 to 1. Right. So save that. Let's have a look. And as you can see, for the luster now, it looks more like a metallic sphere now. Okay. Now what we can do now is, I'm just going to select this model. With Alt down, I'm going to make a duplicate of that. I'm also going to make a duplicate of that material, and I'm going to call it, well, we can leave that to this. In fact, I'll just change that to 2. Made a duplicate of that. I'm just going to close that one, do that material down, and open this one up. Now I'm just going back down. I'm now going to change the roughness again. I'm going to make a parameter, scalar parameter. This time I'm going to call it rough amount. And as you can see, because we created a parameter, the default values are 0. Have you noticed what's happened? The roughness is gone to 0. Therefore, all surfaces will reflect back to the camera, and we see this highly reflective surface. Okay, so we'll save that. Saving the shader, and now we're going to apply that to this model. As you can see now, by just changing a couple of the parameters, we're starting to get lots of different shading. So That's more of a metallic object with very little specular highlight on it. So we'll go back to this one. I'll just open that up, and I'm just going to change the specular on this object. So again, scalar parameter. I'm just going to call that spec amount, and I'm going to increase that to 1. See what it looks like. Now, as you can see, we haven't seen that much of a change, but if we add the roughness as well, okay, so scalar again, okay, and I'm just going to bring that down to 0.5. In fact, I'll bring that up to 8. And as you can see, as we increase the roughness, if you notice what happens to the specular. So we're going to reduce that down to 0.1. 0.2. Again, it's a question of just tweaking these values. As you can see now, in this parameter, which I just need to change the name of, which is rough amount, you can see by changing the roughness and tweaking the specular amount, we get a nice shiny surface, but the reflections aren't as clear. So we'll save that. As you can see, we've got two objects now in there. One with a highly reflective surface, one with a less reflective surface. Okay, so the next part is we'll start to have a look at using textures.